see who's up. I did about 20-25 minutes of functional training with kettlebells and weights. Now I'm finishing off with a 3-mile loop, a brisk walk, get my cardio in now before the heat wave really starts. It's warm now and I'm sweating like a pig, but it's better than heat stroke later on. Good morning, everybody. I want to get your take on this. I mentioned this over the last couple of days, but in case anybody hasn't seen it or heard it, Brian Cashman, GM of the Yankees, if you look back, it seems that most of his trades happen after the Yankees win, not after they lose, which to me makes sense. Now, doesn't mean it's never happened, doesn't mean it'll never happen, but I think it definitely puts him in a more advantageous position, right? A lot of fans thinking he's going to trade out of desperation, which isn't going to happen, right? So, Yankees just won this series against the Baltimore Orioles. Thank goodness, right? And now they're heading to Cincinnati for 3 against the Reds before they're off Thursday and they come back home. I think it's against the Sacramento A's Athletics. I think that's this year. I think that's the schedule this week. But it was good that they won this series and put themselves on a better footing after dropping 7 out of the last 10 or whatever it was, 6 out of the last 9, which sucks. Good morning, gang. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, it's good. I'm getting my cardio in this morning, so please bear with the heavy breathing. But hear me out. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you noticed that? Yes. And what type of trades do you think Brian Cashman's going to make, in your honest opinion? All right? And please, I encourage you to voice your honest opinion on what you're seeing, not other people's narratives and other people's talking points. There's so many morbid narratives and morbid talking points that you think the Yankees are in last place 15 games out, but they're not. They're in first, 2.5 games up. Yeah, the gap is closed. Tampa Bay, I get it, but they're still in first place despite this stretch. Without Garrett Cole, without Luis Hill, without 2 of their 5 members of the starting rotation, still without a full-time solution at third base, right? George Lombard, I think, will be either late next year or 2027. The reason why I say that, and I said this recently, is he's adjusting to AA, but he still has a ways to go, right? And for those that want him to come up and replace Anthony Vulpi, whose OPS at the major league level is 100 points higher than Lombard's is at AA. You also have Spencer Jones, and people talk about his K rate, right? His OPS is like 300 points higher than George Lombard's. So if we're going to call up anybody, it should be Spencer Jones before Lombard, right? Or at the very least, promote him to AAA. So, because that's another logical step in development. And if he goes to AAA and performs like we think he can, then at that point, you decide, what do you do with him? Does he come up here? Do you consider moving Grisham? Do you consider moving Dominguez? These are uncomfortable questions that, unfortunately, they're going to be posed with. I mean, after this year, Grisham is a free agent anyway. And next year, we've got to make room for Ben Rice, right? Most likely at first base if Paul Goldschmidt doesn't come back. So, which leaves what? Left field for Cody Bellinger if he stays here. Now, Jason Dominguez, I've said he'd be better suited at center field. Could have protection from either side, left field and right field. The only argument for Spencer Jones right now is that he's an elite outfielder in center field. He doesn't need the protection on either side. That is a point for Spencer Jones. It's not a knock on Jason Dominguez. he's still developing, as is Spencer Jones. But Brian Cashman, I'll say this again for those that didn't see me, and good morning to all y'all. Brian Cashman makes a lot of his trades after a winning of a game or winning of a series, and not the other way around. It puts him on good footing, on better footing, I should say. A lot of fans expect him to act out of desperation. Very, very unlikely it's going to happen with Brian Cashman. Okay, so just want to point these things out, and I encourage you to consider them. But you give me your takes, gang. What do we got in here? My sunglasses. Forgive the heavy breathing. I did a bunch of kettlebell and weight training in the garage. Now I'm doing a 3-mile cardio brisk walk. Gotta get my cardio done before it becomes hot like Africa. So, good morning to the gang. What is good? What is good? Yeah. Well, it's Helsley. This is the thing with Helsley, right? Good reliever, had his struggles, but he's in the same situation as Weaver and Devin Williams. Which means what? They're all going to be free agents at the end of the year. So is Kyle Finnegan. So unless you say you get Helsley and Finnegan, and just arbitrarily, in separate trades, which would be a boost to the bullpen. But how do you make room for that on the back end of it? Now you got 4 guys competing for the closer job, all of which are going to be free agents at the end of the year. So if I'm personally, just me, can't speak for everybody else. If I'm trading for somebody, it's going to be one of those Rockies relievers, Halverson or Jake Bird, because they've got multiple years of control beyond them after this year on the cheap. And then let's just say they do bring back Luke Weaver, now you got Weaver and one of those guys next year. And you got Fernando Cruz for multiple years. And you never know who else they're going to have. My guess, if I remember correctly, I think they signed Tim Hill to a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal. A 1-year deal with a 2nd-year option. But Tim Hill could be vulnerable, as Ian Hamilton could be vulnerable. So would I be surprised if those guys got moved at the deadline? No, I would not. Okay? And I said this too, we need guys who can perform in high leverage situations in the bullpen, so that we're not having to, the last couple of days, Tim Hill had to come in and bail out, was it Ian Hamilton and Johnny Loizaga, who had a bunch of walks? And then yesterday, Fernando Cruz had to come out and bail out Tim Hill, who walked a bunch of guys. We have to get somebody, or a couple guys here that aren't going to draw these walks and put the guy behind them at a disadvantage, right? This is where we can tighten things up. This is why the Dodgers were so effective last year in the postseason, because their bullpen was suffocating, right? And they added to that suffocating bullpen. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm going to try and get a high leverage guy from the left side, high leverage guy from the right side. Even if it means moving on from Hamilton. I like the 2 of them, but if I can upgrade there, I'm going to upgrade there. I've said this before. I like players, yes, but I like the team better, right? And whatever's going to help the team win is what I'm rooting for. Again, I don't work for the Yankees. They don't pay me nothing. So, but this is also from watching games on a regular basis. It's also from being a former player as well, who can speak from some kind of experience. Did I play pro ball? No. But, I have a little bit of an understanding that the perspective is different on the field and different from the dugout than it is watching it on the TV. So, and I encourage fans to not assume that it should be that easy, because it isn't. Okay? If it was, Major League Baseball would have 10,000 players, but it doesn't. So, but what's your take, gang? Right? No, most definitely upgrade the bench. Most definitely, I agree. 100% Stephen B. 100%. My apologies if I can't really see the names. I'm walking and my phone's wobbling. So, franchise, good morning to all of you. Shout out to everybody in here. Smack that like button if you don't mind. But I'm confident when I say, and again, I could be wrong. I'm confident when I say if Cashman makes trades, and I think he will, it's very likely, or it's more likely going to happen after a win than it would after a loss. Because he's going to always put himself in a position to be in the driver's seat, not the passenger seat. Call it whatever you want. Call it an ego thing, whatever. That's GMing, right? All the other GMs do that too. They want to be the driver's seat. They want to be whatever you call it, the alpha, this, that. They want to be the one that wins the trade, blah, blah, blah. To me, if the Yankees address the needs that they have, I don't care what they give up. It's a one trade. And again, they will have to make some decisions, yes. They will. And for those that want, I said this in the beginning, for those that want Anthony Vulpi replaced with George Lombard, just keep that in mind. Lombard's not ready yet. This is not a knock on George Lombard either. I do think he has a bright future. But Volpe's OPS is 100 points, I should say, higher at the major league level than Lombard's is at the AA level. And then sticking in AA, go to Spencer Jones. His OPS is 300 points higher than George Lombard. So if we're gonna call up somebody to promote somebody, Spencer Jones is the more immediate guy, okay? But that poses a tough decision too. Is it AAA, where I think he should have a stay at? And it's at that point, when it comes up to the major leagues, is it gonna replace Jason Dominguez or Cody Donjo? Like, we don't know. And I think this also depends on whether Paul Goldschmidt stays next year, which leaves Ben Rice kind of in limbo, or Ben Rice takes over first base, which kind of clears up a logjam there. So there's a lot of tough decisions that are going to have to be made. But come trade deadline, gang, what would be an ideal deadline for you? To me, it's 2 relief arms and a solid infielder who can play multiple positions, like a utility guy. If you can get that, I'm confident that with Luis Hill coming back and guys like Alan Wynans and Cam Schlittler, who's in AA, is probably going to get promoted to AAA, that we have enough here to be better than any pitcher they're not going to have to overpay significantly for at the deadline. Anybody that's going to be a frontline guy like Freddie Peralta, whoever, you're going to have to give up Dominguez or Jones. And is it worth it? You have to ask yourself that. He's got 1.5 years left. You want to give up 6 years of a potential long-term building block here for 1.5 years? Just think about that too. I understand, well, they win the World Series. I get that logic. But getting the most expensive shiny toy isn't always the best answer either. Okay? The best fit is different. So it's up to them, I guess, to decide who the best fit is. You give me your thoughts, gang. Thank you for spending some time with me this morning. Appreciate all yous. I am almost done with my walk here. Damn. 3-mile brisk walk after I did my functional training in the garage. I'm glad I got it done, because it's gonna feel like Somalia in about 2 hours, man. It's gonna feel super hot. Sudan. Melting. Get up here. Let me get the other side. Before I get to my house, I'll lose reception if I walk back there. I don't want to lose reception on you guys. But Stephen B. Graham. Well, if Peraza gets an opportunity, they're gonna have to stick with him, right? Or if they're gonna trade for somebody like IKF, who's the name that's been floated now, then they've got to use him better than they used him last time. Now, last time they had him at shortstop, he was playing completely out of position. So yeah, he wasn't great. When they used him at his more appropriate utility role, he was better, right? So if they're going to trade for him, got to use him well. But that means sitting Peraza. And I understand his versatility is key, right? Versatility matters. Because we lost Osvaldo Cabrera. Chances are he's not going to be back this year. So, and there's no need to rush him back just so that he could be here for the last couple weeks of the season and risk injury again. There's no need for that. The Suns are crazy. Well, Low. Oh, Low from Tampa, yeah. Well, Matt Chapman. I mean, there's talks about the Yankees floating Jason Dominguez for Matt Chapman. It's going to cost more than Dominguez, though. But the price tag for Matt Chapman is going to be significantly high. And if that's the case, what do you do then when he's going to take third, right? Then you have Jazz Chisholm at second. But what do you do when Jazz Chisholm's contract is up? Do you extend him? And then you have no room for Lombard. Or if Lombard keeps getting better, do you replace Jazz with Lombard? So these are the types of questions that are going to have to be kind of asked and answered over the next year or so. Yeah. So. Yeah, the contract, well, exactly. I mean, the Chapman contract is like 6 years, $150 million or something like that. It's about $25 million per year. And that's big money. And again, when you're over the cone threshold here, people don't want to hear it, but 25 becomes 50 right off the bat per year. Everything gets taxed at 100 to 110% when you're over the cone threshold. I know it's easy for some people to say because it ain't their money, right? Yankees should just be able to do this shit. Well, that's not the reality. It's not the reality. So, but I do expect some type of move to happen today. Well, and we'll see if, so Alan Wynans is replacing your Ryan Yarbrough. At least this time. Yarbrough just got placed on the 15-day IL, so maybe Alan Wynans will be up here for 2 or 3 starts while Yarbrough's on the IL. That could happen too, especially if he pitches well today. So, which gives the Yankees some breathing room and means they don't have to rush Yarbrough back from injury. Because again, this guy's essentially a converted reliever who's been starting pretty credibly. And it's got a right oblique strain, which is not on his pitching side, which is good, but still, being in the IL sucks. So what they're going to have to be is strategic over the next couple weeks as we get to the deadline. For those that don't know, I'll be live on deadline day 2, probably for 6 to 8 hours like I am every year. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'll have guests on. And it's so hot. And we're going to give you all the reporting as it comes in live. That's going to be a fun time. Now, I do not sports bet or gamble now. I don't. I have a massive mortgage and massive property taxes, so I don't waste money. And I have 3 daughters. Don't waste money. Gambling could be fun, but there's just as much a risk of losing as there is fun of winning. So I'd rather the guaranteed money go towards college tuition or weddings or mortgage or whatever than gambling. So that's just me. You want a horse on a nice. A horse, nice, dude. What the hell are you gonna do to a horse? Well, hopefully you like horses. Could you imagine living in Manhattan, like walking around with a horse? Like, yo, what's up, guys? It's my horse. It'd be kind of crazy. A donkey, yeah, exactly. Yo, check it out, man. This is my donkey. This is my alpaca. What's up? Yeah, Graham. I mean, you're looking at $1 million for college alone. That's provided they don't get scholarships, right? So, and I'm going with the assumption that they won't get scholarships. If they do, then that money gets rerouted for a wedding and they want to buy property or something like that, right? So either way, that money's got to be allocated to them. Horses are exactly. Good morning, Jacob. What's going on? Right, run to the corner. Yeah. Imagine, yo, hang out here, man. I gotta go in and get some milk. All right. Imagine having the discussion with your horse. Just, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get some Oreo cookies. Put them in the, stand them in the parking lot with all the cars. Tie them to the rack where the shopping carts are. Whatever. You've been up since 3 a.m. Dang, dude. Hopefully, it's not because you didn't sleep. Hope not. Royal meeting in Ascot. Oh, I can only imagine, Graham. I can only imagine. The thoroughbreds they got going on there. Can only imagine. Kids got in the Yale. Congratulations, Michael, to your kid, man. That's a great accomplishment. One of the greatest, one of the best schools in the world right there. That's fantastic. Morning. My skincare routine. Stay out of the sun. Moisturize my face, my elbows, my heels. Rest of my body too. I don't smoke. I don't really drink. And that's it. Nice, Jacob. Well, welcome, man. Max and Ace are fantastic guys, man. Those guys are my boys right there. Great content creators, just great dudes. Love collaborating with those guys. Love talking with them. If you haven't seen The Strike Zone, my man NFE, he's another part of the Four Horsemen too. I encourage you to go there too. And The Ugly Truth as well, Ken. So it's part of our crew. Oh, great channels. No sons, all daughters. Guardians fan. All right, man. Butts. Guardians they're a sneaky good team too, man. They're good every year. You know, I know there was talks about the Yankees potentially going after Jose Ramirez, but I can't see that happening. Jose Ramirez is way too valuable for the Guardians. It's way too valuable. No. Yeah, Yankees media. Yep. Well, CT Cards is, well, I guess, a co-host, and so is Nathan Ramachandra. Those guys are co-hosts on NY Yankee Media. NY Yankee Mania, excuse me. Bring in a player that can play. Yeah, that's true. Exactly, Benji. Exactly. And this is where I think it's that. I think they can get relievers before the deadline, but I have a feeling the bat's going to be going right up to the deadline. So we're 5 weeks out. So there's going to be a lot of rumors, a lot of chatter, a lot of all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned. I'll keep you fed on everything. That's why, people, if you're not subscribed here, make sure you do that. But if you are subscribed and your notifications aren't turned on, make sure you do that, more importantly. That way when stuff does come out, you're notified. Okay? That's the key. Making sure the notifications are turned on. If J-Ram gets moved, then the Guardians fans are going to burn the place down. Just like I have a feeling that if Dominguez gets moved, Yankee fans are going to run around with their hair on fire. Right? So, but this is what happens. You're going to have to give to get, and you're going to have to trade from positions of depth to address positions of need. That's just the way that it is. Right? That's supply and demand. So, unfortunately. And again, we'll have to unfortunately say goodbye to players that we like sometimes. I don't always like it, but I understand that's the business of baseball. And in order for the Yankees to sustainably win and continue to compete, they're going to need to do that. They can't always just get more expensive players all the time. Oh, good morning, Merck. And I will wrap this up because I got to go in and get the girls ready for camp. Oh, yeah. Oh, exactly. You get the fair weather fans going crazy because Dominguez is apparently the savior, right? But like I said, people want, generally a lot of the fans who want Vulpi replaced with Lombard, even though Lombard is nowhere near being ready, also don't want Jones replacing Dominguez because of his K rate, right? But Jones is projected to be over 30-30 this year, and his OPS is 300 points higher than George Lombard's is. So he is raking 976, 975 OPS. That is legit. And it's not a knock on Lombard. Lombard just needs more time to develop. So, yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm wrapping it up too, gang. But I just wanted to say good morning to you. Thanks so much for spending some time with me this morning. Have a great day, everybody. If anything else comes out, I promise you'll get it. Peace. Go Yankees.